Welcome to the Servant Leaders Mindset channel, where we are changing lives through servant leadership. Up next. Well, you've worked with some really exciting brands. Why do you think they chose your company? What do you think differentiates you from everyone else who is doing what you do?
I've asked them that because that's one of the things you have to do to determine what makes you unique or distinct. Because again, you might guess, but it's very likely we're going to guess incorrectly. So what they have told me is, number one, we not only understand their business, but we understand business, which is a difference. You can understand how somebody builds a product, but may be completely clueless as to what they need to do to get to that marketplace.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today, I would like to introduce to you my very special guest, Mr. Barry LaBov. Barry is a two-time Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year winner. He's also a celebrated author, speaker, and brand strategist. With a core emphasis on differentiation, Barry advocates for leaders to unearth and champion their brand's distinctiveness to win market share and the hearts of the people who represent it. His book is titled The Power of Differentiation: Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. Barry is founder of LaBov, a marketing training firm serving blue chip clients. Barry is also known for his infectious energy, creativity, and uplifting message. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Thank you, Dr. Lena. It's a pleasure to be with you today. It's an honor, and I think we're going to have a really great time.
I think so too. And I think you have a very interesting personal story to tell us first. So I'd like you to talk about how did you transition from being a rock musician to entrepreneurship?
Well, I had a lot of hair way back in the 1980s, so that was easier for me to portray myself as. What really happened was I was very, very torn between playing music in my band, which did really well. It was a good band, and it had some songs on the charts, and it had a video on MTV and American Bandstand, all that stuff. It was good, but as I say all the time, we did sell well under 1 million copies, but we were working hard. Uh, what happened was, at the same time, I also had a business, a marketing business, and I was trying to do two things at once, Lena, and that was one of the problems that I really had. I was trying to do two things, and then a tragedy hit in my life, and it was my father passing away. He had had cancer for about a year and a half, and then he did pass. And I remember to this day the moment that it occurred to me that, you know what, I don't have a guarantee that I'm going to live one more minute. So I ought to start looking at my life a little more seriously and really pursue the path that I believe in. And at that very moment, and I remember what time of night it was, and I was walking my dog down a little street. I said to myself, look, give yourself 6 months to focus on your business. If it doesn't work out, or if you feel you're selling out, you can always go back to music, but focus on your passion for that business. And that's what I did. And I've never looked back. That's how I moved into being a full-time entrepreneur and growing a company that now works nationally and internationally with really great clients that include, a minor league baseball team, or Macallan Scotch, or Audi cars, or Mercedes-Benz, or Harley Davidson. Some really wonderful companies that we all know, and some very wonderful companies that are small, family businesses as well. So that's how I got there.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. So, your thing is differentiation. So, how does a CEO begin that journey of differentiating their company? And in other words, what are some of the immediate steps they need to think about within the process?
Whether you're a very small company or whether you have tens of thousands of employees, it's very, very probable that you are doing things, making things, servicing things, producing things, whatever you do. You're doing some of these things in a unique way, or you're producing something that is unique or distinct. So, number one, it's very important to realize that we get so close to what we do that we no longer see the magic in it. So, one of the steps I try to help CEOs with is if they can do it internally, great. Sometimes my company will come in and help them. But to look at what you do from, I call it pedestrian eyes, meaning somebody just walked in and looked at what you're doing, look at the technology, look at the processes you go through, and what are those unique differentiators, as we call them. And it could be as small as it could be a warranty that you offer that really nobody else does. It could be a special kind of product that you produce, or a special grain that you put in your food that you spend a little extra money for, but you put it in there because you think it makes it taste better. It's normally these little things. It's normally the things you spend a little more money on or put that extra step into. So that's the first step. And then the next thing we do is we determine, how do we communicate that? How do we share that story? And we determine that by maybe naming this unique differentiator. Sometimes we create a narrative around it that's very interesting. But the most exciting thing that happens next, and we share this with the CEOs and the managers and the leaders, and today they love it. And that is, before all of that is communicated to the world, you celebrate it with the most important people, your
Well, let me just
employees.
stop you there for a minute
Yeah.
because you really hit on something that's really important. Recently, I was reading an article about the updating of news of websites. And a lot of people, one of the basic things, and I have this problem too, in terms of looking at other people's websites. A lot of times you look at them, and you say, what do they do? I'm not really
Mm.
sure what they do. So, in addition to differentiation, it's just too articulating what do you do in a simplistic form when immediately when somebody goes to your website, they know exactly what you do, or what services you're going to provide for them. And then, of course, the differentiator. If okay, so I found this, I'm looking for this service or this product, and so how is it different from something else, or someone else that is also providing the same service or product? So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think too, in addition to that, people really making it simple to understand what they're actually doing.
You're right. And that's brilliant. It's so easy. It's easy for my company. It's easy for me to put something out there and say, hey, we do blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, does anybody even know what that means? It's like when we're all driving down the highway and you see a billboard and you look at it for a second and you go, what does that mean? And then all of a sudden you're past it, you're gone. We have to look at any of the communication that we provide as being the same thing. It's a momentary glimpse in somebody's life of something. We have to make it as clear as possible. And the other thing that gets in our way is that we are pressured today to become commoditized, to be a
Mm,
commodity. We're pressured to be like everyone else we compete with. So what also happens is we start a laundry list, a menu of all these things we do, but we don't understand that the person who goes onto our website or listens to us explain what we do, they can easily get overwhelmed and go, look, I don't even know what these people do. I'm moving on. And so what you said is absolutely spot on. We have to realize that words are very important. One of my favorite sayings is, words create worlds.
mm.
So when we say what we are, we tell our story, we have to make sure that those words really make sense and that, as you said, they're succinct. The fewer words, the more powerful your message.
Wow. Well, you've worked with some really nice brands, some really exciting brands. Why do you think they chose your company or they chose you to work with? What do you think differentiates you from everyone else who is doing what you do?
I've asked them that because that's one of the things you have to do to determine what makes you unique or distinct. Because again, you might guess, but it's very likely we're going to guess incorrectly. So what they have told me is, number one, we not only understand their business, but we understand business, which is a difference. You can understand how somebody builds a product, but may be completely clueless as to what they need to do to get to that marketplace and to really stand out. So they say we understand business as well as their business. The thing they also love, and it's a differentiator, is what we call brand reengineering, which is our unique process. It's a 5-step process on how we can differentiate a brand, unite an entire enterprise, and increase their market share. So we
Hmm.
have 5 steps. Nobody else has 2 of the 5 steps that we use. And then everybody has 1 of the 3 or 3 of the 3. But we have something unique. And they turn to us and say, hey, you know, you seem to have a lot of passion. You're doing something in a unique fashion. Sign us up. Let's go.
Excellent. That's great. So we know that the customer experience plays an important role in the company's brand image. So, how should a CEO respond now with social media and everybody being on social media? How should a CEO respond, or how should a company respond when they end up on the internet and a
Mm.
customer, their experience is not a good one, and they want to let the world know that this company, with social media, it's more than just the actual experience that the customer has one on one with your company, but it's also social media. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts about that?
That's such a great question. We have to realize, and this is great for CEOs, anybody that's running a business or managing a group, that the experience we provide is the brand in the eyes of the consumer. As an example, if you are a wonderful car brand and you produce incredibly exciting cars and products, if a consumer goes to a dealership and starts looking at that model and has a terrible experience delivered to them at the dealer, they're going to walk out and they're going to say what? They're going to say, I'll never buy that brand again. I will never, ever recommend that brand. Well, guess what? That brand, the CEO and the leaders of that brand are probably sitting somewhere. Could be in Germany, could be in Japan, could be in Korea, could be in the United States somewhere. They have no idea that that experience happened, but somebody just said, "I will never buy from them." We have to realize that the experience we provide is the brand. It's what people think. Now, one thing you said that's really important, and I just counseled a company, a really wonderful family company that produces tremendous products on this, and that is they on their websites and on some of their social media were receiving some very negative reviews on a product. They had a product that had a lot of issues. There were no responses from that company to those complaints.
Mm-hmm.
And in talking with them, we said, why? And they said, well, we don't have all the answers yet. We don't understand everything that did go wrong. And we explained something, and this is so important for your audience. As heartbreaking as it is and frustrating when you see a bad review of a product or a complaint, the reality is the consumer is not expecting perfection, even though we think they are. They're not. But what they really do want and expect, they expect you to listen and they expect you to reply. And they will be very, very patient if you reply and say, thank you for your comments. We agree there is a problem with the product. We don't have it figured out yet. Please contact us at this number. We will personally help you because we want to make sure you have a good experience. Now, what's interesting statistically, and I think this is amazing, but I live my life by this. If you have a product that does not have a problem and it works pretty much perfectly. The average loyalty rate is 84%. So customers 84% of the time will come back, which is nice. If you have a product that had a problem, but you fixed it for the customer, the average loyalty rate is 92%.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's amazing. And it's because the customer got to know you and they realized that you actually paid attention and that you actually care. And you know what? Yeah, you had a product that had a mess up in it. Okay, so what? You fixed it. And they become advocates. That's what's so important. It's not about perfection. And one thing we have in my book, we talk about the perfect trap. And you don't want to be in the perfect trap. Nothing is perfect. Don't get caught in that trap. Identify, hey, a product goes bad, fine. We're going to fix it. Thank you for the complaint. We will take care of you. Most of the time, 92% of the time, as we just heard, you will get a far more happier customer than you would have had there been really no issue.
Hmm, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. So, something you said, I'm going to pivot a little bit. Something you said about celebrating your brand differentiation with your employees, you're starting to go in that direction. In what ways can company managers celebrate their brand with their employees and then their customers?
Every day and every interaction that you have with an employee is an opportunity to celebrate your brand.
Hmm.
Too often, the leaders will wait for the quarterly down or town hall meeting or the once a year annual dealer meeting to make statements. Every day and every interaction is an opportunity. So, number one, look at those interactions, help people understand, and actually, bluntly, remember why we're doing what we're doing, because a lot of
Mm.
times we forget. So, that's number one. We also have to look at what are the messages we are sharing. I work with a wonderful company, and the CEO said, hey, I can't wait to go to the factory and let all of our team know that our stock is at its highest level and that our shareholder return on investment is at the highest level in 15 years. And he
Wow.
said, what do you think? And I said, I think you should not tell them any of that unless they're sharing in that. And he said, why? That's all good news. I said, it's good news for you and the shareholders. But if I work on the line, you did not tell me that you're looking out for me. And he said, oh,
Mm.
but wait a minute, hold on. I am looking out. I just bought all this new equipment. It's the highest safety standards in the industry. And I said, that's your message. Your message is your safety matters. We're investing in that. We're doing well thanks to you. You've made this company tremendous profit, and that profit's being put into safer machinery, safer equipment for you so that you can go home every day and feel healthy and you have a family there waiting for you. So we have to realize that we are working with people who have to feel that what they're doing has significance and has meaning, and that the people who they work for actually look out for them. So that's what we have to do. It's looking at the message. You got to be honest. If you're not doing any of those things, don't say it because it's, obviously not right. But 99% of all of the CEOs and leaders I work with are really good people and really want to take care of their teams. So that's critically important. Share what you're doing for them and the difference they make in the world.
That's great. I think that's excellent because it kind of leads me to think too that we do, when companies put together core values for their employees, they never really, there seem to be these common core values and there are no differentiators in there. And I think that should be part of their core values. So it's really important for them to think about that is one way in which they can embody their core values if they are able to articulate or communicate to their employees how they are different. So,
Yeah, the generic core values, I don't want to ruffle feathers, but I will, are useless. They're useless. So quality, value, service, it's like, put me to sleep on that. They're terrible. Look at what you're doing that's unique. We work with a truck manufacturer, and one of their core values is rigor. And I love that. I
mm,
thought, God, what a great core value.
mm,
They're going to make sure it's right and they're going to keep working at it until it is. And I thought, okay, that's so much better than saying quality, because everybody says they have quality. And
mhm,
keep in mind, the word quality doesn't mean anything anymore, because there's high quality, medium quality, entry level quality, premium quality. There's all types of qualities. So our core values, and you really nailed it. Our core values have to be meaningful, or I hate to say it, just throw them out. They're useless. If you're going to
mhm,
have core values, they have to be important. At my company, one of our core values is jamming. Like in music, you have a jam,
mm,
we
okay,
jam. And so every day at our company, we hold jam sessions.
mm,
When we are interviewing people, and it may sound to the audience like, well, everybody says I want to jam and collaborate. No, not everybody does. Not everybody wants to have give and take. And we'll talk to people and say, look, if you're in our environment, it means, and I'm telling you, it means this, we're going to work with you. We're going to listen to your ideas, but you're going to need to listen to the ideas of others. And you're going to have to be ready to maybe compromise and maybe work on some other ideas and take input. And I'll tell you a true story. One time we were talking to one of our employees who was relatively new, and she said, I just don't like this teamwork collaboration thing. I want what I do. I want it to be me. I want to be the person who represents LaBov. I want none of these other people. I just want to be the face of the company. And we said, that doesn't fit our core value of jamming. We jam, we listen, we work with others, we try to get things to improve by collaborating. And if you can't embrace that and love it, it's not a good fit. And she did move on because she did not want
mm,
to collaborate.
mm,
So get meaningful core values, and don't have 15 of them. Have 3, have 4, have 2, but make them unique. And here's a test. If you want to test how good your core values are, look at your 4 core values and then compare them to your competitors' core values,
mm,
and then say, could my competitor claim quality, value, service, and whatever that we're claiming? Okay. And if you go, well, yeah, they could claim it. Okay. Then they're not core values.
mhm.
They're generic terms. My competitors are not going to have jamming as a core value.
Mhm,
They're
that's
not.
interesting.
Nobody has jamming as a core value, but we jam. And
Mhm,
so what I'm saying is, looking at those core values, it's very smart to say, hey, let's establish those core values and make sure we're behaving that way.
mhm,
But the real most important point in that is establish meaningful core values so that you're
absolutely.
following them, because I don't want to be told you're not following quality, service, value, and something else. I mean, I don't even hear those words.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit more about your book, The Power of Differentiation. What are some of the major ways, or what are the major takeaways actually that you want your readers to walk away from when they read your book?
We've talked about a number of them here because your interviewing is fantastic. There are many, many key things. So I'll share some of the highlights. We work with companies that are 100 years old. Some are even 200 years old, as well as some brand new companies. It's too easy to overlook what makes you unique. If you're 100 years old, you're probably doing something pretty good. Okay. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not trying to be too optimistic here, but it seems logical. So, number one, determine, discover, do not create what is unique. So, that's one big lesson. Do not try to create your brand, discover your brand. That's a big difference, because if you try to create it, you're creating somebody else's brand. You can't wake up in the middle of the night and be that, because you're going, oh my gosh, I can't do all these things. No, create is wrong. Discover right. Discover that brand. So number one, discover it. As you mentioned earlier, your experience that is being delivered to the customer is your brand. Do you have one experience that you're delivering that you've refined? Or perhaps do you have 800 experiences that, depending on who your customer's dealing with, they have it? And you might say, okay, Barry, you're overreacting. No, I'm not. If you have 800 dealers out there selling your product, and you might even have 3 salespeople per dealership, that's 2,400 people. And if there is no codification, there is no code to what your standards of excellence or experience are, you're literally providing 2,400 different experiences every day. So why not refine what your experience is? Are we the friendly company? Are we the one that bends over backwards? What are we? Let's refine what that is. So that's another very major point. Another critical thing to keep in mind is words. We talked a little bit about this, but words do create worlds. There are 200,000 words in the English language. So I challenge all of us to come up with really interesting words that describe what we do. I would say is celebrate. And that is not just communicate what makes you unique, but celebrate it. Give your people significance and meaning. Let them know that what they're doing could save lives. What they're doing could make their customers look like heroes. What they're doing could make something easier for a family. Whatever you're doing, celebrate that with your employees. Let them know the role they play and the fact that they actually represent a company they should be proud of.
That's excellent. So speaking of words and how words form worlds or frame worlds, tell me what you think what artificial intelligence, what impact or what role does artificial intelligence play on communicating brand differentiation? Because I know
Well,
a
it
lot of
will.
people, I guess what I'm saying is, I noticed that since artificial intelligence has been more widely used, I find that messaging is repetitive. It looks cloned almost. It doesn't look original. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Great question. If you want to stress your differentiation, do not use AI as the final source for your language. I do think you can use AI, and I do, for ideas, for different styles of writing, for different concepts that you can challenge it to, as long as you go back and forth to refine it. But what's so important, and you really nailed it, is it's got to be in your voice. You have to look at what's being written and say, okay, I say that. That's how I talk. That's how we at our company talk, as opposed to, that sounds like an AI generated message. So one person said recently that AI should be used for efficiency, but not creativity. I'm a little different on that. I think it can be used for efficiency for sure. I think it can help in the collaboration segment of creativity, in that it can provide lots of potential ideas, but you have to own them yourself. You cannot say, well, AI wrote this, so that's great. So I look at it like that. I never have used one thing from AI that I did not go through numerous revisions and then slightly rewrote or dramatically rewrote it to make it mine.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Wonderful advice. Well, I just wanted to ask you, my last question for you is, how can the audience, if they want to learn more about you and what you do, because I think what you're doing is really important. We call this show the Servant Leaders Mindset, but it really is a service that I think businesses, it's important. It does change everything in terms of market share because you really know where you fit. How do they find out more about you? Should they go to the website if they want to get a copy of your book? How would they access that information?
I appreciate that. My goal is to inspire 1 million people or more with our message. That's my goal. So I would ask anybody that has interest to go to two places, either labov.com, my company's website, and you can look at what we do and send me a message. And I'm happy to have a conversation. Whether there's a transaction or not doesn't matter at all. Or go to my website, which is Barry LaBov, BarryLabov.com. Take a look at my upcoming book. You can sign up for copies and or pre-sale copies depending on when you get to it. Also, reach out to me on there. There's a link where you can communicate with me, and there are also some free links to documents that you might find of interest. I'm looking for conversations. I want to motivate 1 million people with this message. So I don't care if it's 10 people at a time or 16,000 people at a time. It all adds up.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Barry, it's been such a pleasure to meet you and to have you on the show. And I think you really added some valuable information to the audience, and I hope they become one of those 1 million. So thank you so much, and we can wrap it up and end it there.
Well, that's wonderful. It's been an honor. I think you do a great job. So thank you so much.